All right, welcome in. What's Right with Nick Wright, episode 165, our last episode before a week of vacation. I know we were off last week, but that was because, my partner in crime, my co-host, was gallivanting around East Hampton.
You've said that every episode since.
I think it's worth noting. I'm proud of you. You've got powerful and wealthy friends, and they invite you to their, pretty parties at their pretty houses on East. I've lived in New York for 7 years, but I'm a man of the people. I've never been to the Hamptons. I wouldn't know how to get there. I wouldn't know what to do.
Wouldn't know how to get there.
I've never been. Next week, however, we are off because I'm off TV and podcast next week as we're taking a vacation. And today, we might only have one more podcast with Diorra over the next few weeks because she's coming with me on that vacation.
You're telling everybody my business.
And she's going on another vacation without me, so it's going to be very hit and miss. But we got a great episode for you today. We will be on television today at 3 and tomorrow before we take a vacation. Also, more on this in a moment. Happy birthday to my original podcast co-host, Diorra's brother, my son, Demonze, who turned 25 today.
What if he wanted to lie about his age? You got to keep the age secret.
Well, nope. He's a public figure. He's probably got a Wikipedia page with his birthday and everything. He turned 25 today. More on him in a moment because I have a hilarious Demonze story for everyone. But first, here's what missed the cut on today's show. Naomi Osaka. Shout out to her. She welcomes her first child. Netflix releases the documentary Quarterback. I am yet to see it, but some friends of mine produced it. I'm very excited to see it, and I've been told that I make an appearance in it in the first 10 minutes. What's that face, Diorra? What?
Nothing.
I mean, it's the number one thing on Netflix right now. Within the first 10 minutes, you see or hear me. I'm not sure. I haven't watched it yet.
You haven't watched it yet?
No, I haven't watched it. Hand to God, I haven't watched it. I'm very excited to watch it. People are tweeting to me saying that I'm in it, but I am yet to be able to sit down to watch it. I actually would love if we could watch it as a family. It's Patrick Mahomes is kind of the main character of it.
That's wonderful.
I think you and your sister would love it. I know you
do not.
I do think that. And by the way, also not making the cut, Patrick Beverly taking a pottery class in Philadelphia. Good for Patrick Beverly. Always good to keep those post-career options open. All right, Diorra, what are we starting with today?
So last night, LeBron announced that he is not retiring.
Correct.
And his agent, Rich Paul, said that he wouldn't rule out seeing the GOAT play into his mid-40s.
Yep.
Paul says it all comes down to his motivation. We know playing with Bronny is a goal, but it's not entirely in his hands. So what could possibly still be motivating someone who's already achieved everything?
He's still awesome. I mean, that people that are great at something, and it's a fun job, and it's incredibly lucrative, typically don't walk away voluntarily when they're still awesome at it. In the last game we saw LeBron James play, he went 40, 10, and 9, playing all 48 minutes on 60% shooting against the Nuggets. Now, yes, they lost. They got swept by the Nuggets. But LeBron was on the court with the league MVP, soon-to-be finals MVP, Nikola Jokic, and it was clear at this point Jokic is better than him. But it was also clear LeBron was the second best guy out there. I know Jamal Murray was awesome in that series, but after this postseason, if you were talking about the top performers league-wide of the postseason, LeBron finishes either second or third. Jokic is a clear number one, and then Jimmy Butler or LeBron are the 2 and the 3. And in this postseason, he, in the closeout game against the Warriors, with Steph having one of the best seasons and one of the best, the best probably game of his playoff career, the 50-point Game 7 against the Kings. In that Game 6 against Golden State, LeBron went 30, 9 and 9 on 14 shots. He is, Rich Paul also came out and said that if LeBron loses, he tells LeBron if he loses his athleticism, he's just Karl Malone. And Brew and I got into an argument about this yesterday. He said it was insulting to Malone. I said it's a little insulting to LeBron. Because LeBron, without his athleticism, is Karl Malone plus elite passing. And he has dropped off significantly from peak LeBron. But year 18, year 19, year 20 LeBron are all almost interchangeable as far as how they look when he's healthy. And so if he suffers one significant cataclysmic injury like Kobe did with the Achilles, like we've seen happen to guys, then yeah, I think he'll step away. But I think he still believes he can win titles. I think everyone acknowledges at worst he's still one of the 10 best players in the league. And I do think he likes the attention. Everyone would like the money. And he really does want to play with Bronny. And we talked about, LeBron, when would he potentially retire? And I stumbled upon something yesterday that I think is noteworthy, which is other all-time legends with incredibly long careers. I used Kareem, Kobe, Karl Malone, all 20-year plus guys. All of them played 3 more seasons after their last All-NBA appearance. So All-NBA basically means you're one of the 10 to 15 best players in the league. All of those guys played 3 full years after they last were, by the voters or whatever, considered one of the 10 to 15 best guys in the league. Well, LeBron was All-NBA this year. And so I think he could play not as long as he wants, but I think he could easily play I expect him to play for at least 2 more years. I think he likely plays for 3 more years. And I don't think it's crazy that he could play for 5 more years. I really don't. And we'll see how the Bronny thing works out. If he plays with Bronny and they enjoy it, then you see if he starts changing the expectation and be like, I want to play with Bryce too. And again, Bryce is not at this point in his high school career, the prospect Bronny was, but Bryce is tall. And so you see how the kid develops. All right, next.
Next season, flopping will be punishable with a technical foul. You think this will have disastrous ramifications and fans will hate it. However, DeMonte thinks that you have an agenda.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How are you the only one still out here defending flopping?
Okay, so this is the hilarious DeMonte story. So we were talking about this on TV, and DeMonte tweeted, of course, the biggest LeBron supporters on TV right now defending flopping. And I then tweeted, turns out Deanna and Diorra's share of the future inheritance just jumped from 33 to 50%. So this, I don't know if I told you this or not. DeMonte got in trouble for that tweet.
Yeah, you told me.
DeMonte got in trouble for that tweet because DeMonte works at FS1 in the production staff, and obviously you can't have folks taking shots at your on-air hosts, even if they happen to be your father. Now, I don't think he actually got in trouble because I know the guy who told him he shouldn't have done it. I think that guy was mostly messing with him. But it got DeMonte so shook, DeMonte sent an apology tweet out later that night saying he was totally joking and would never mess with, quote, the great Nick Wright. DeMonte was in shambles because he's working. Some days he's getting into work at 5 a.m. He's trying to learn new jobs. He's really doing a great job there. And this was the first time he had gotten scolded for anything. And it was because he sent a tweet about me. Now, on DeMonte, again, happy birthday to him. He's working on his birthday as a grown man should. I'm happy. I asked him, I was like, so you got any big plans? I talked to him yesterday for your birthday. And he was like, no, maybe I'll do something this weekend. But, he's like, I'm just going to work. And I was like, that's right. That's what you're supposed to do. He's not, and 25's somewhat of a milestone. I think 25, Your
Yeah.
milestone birthdays are like all of them as a little kid.
I wouldn't say all of them as a little kid. I think as a little kid it's 1, 5, for some reason 8, 10, and then 13,
Yeah, but
16, 18.
so that's the reason I say all as a little kid is as a little
You have a
kid
birthday party
you have
every-
birthday party, you're
Yeah.
super excited. But then I do think it goes 16, 18, 21, 25, and then after that it's just decades.
Yeah,
It's just
like
30, 40, 50,
I think
60.
it's by fives.
I don't think so. I think it becomes by fives. I think it then starts again when you're old. Then 60, 65 is something that's like retirement age. And then it's every 5 years, 70, 75, 80, 85. And then after that, once you hit 90, it's like you're a little kid again. Every year is a big deal. It's like, holy crap, 92. Look at what I've done here. And so, Demonte won't have another milestone birthday till he's 30. So shout out to him. Now to the flopping stuff. I want to be very clear on this. I like the NBA wanting to penalize guys who pretend they got hit when there was no contact. When someone swipes in front of their face, doesn't touch them, and they grab their eye. When someone takes a jump shot, pretends someone took their legs out, and there was no contact. That should be eradicated from the league. During Summer League, one of the things they have been penalizing is when a guy does get hit, but they think he is overemphasizing the contact. I think that overemphasizing the contact, they are penalizing that. I think that is an incredibly slippery slope and incredibly risky. And I don't blame players. We're in a weird spot where I'm going to pantomime an offensive foul. That is an offensive foul, pushing off. If you do that as an offensive player, it should not be determined, is it or is it not a foul, based on whether or not the guy you do it to is strong enough to withstand the hit. Your action is the foul. And so what has happened is guys don't get the call unless they fall backwards. So you have stronger guys. There were instances when we were running the highlights of it of Jokic and LeBron, the two strongest guys on the court along with Aaron Gordon, in the Western Conference Finals, both getting hit and then both selling the call. In Summer League, they have called that as a technical for flopping. A, I'm not sure how fair that is, but B, and this is my real beef with it, I don't think this will be adjudicated consistently, and I think the fans will hate it. And I think we're going to have an instance where a guy commits an offensive foul, does not get called for it, and then the guy he offensively fouled gets a technical for trying to get the call. And much like when they said, hey, we're going to review pass interference in the NFL, I was one of the people saying, sounds good, will be a disaster. I think instant replay across sports aside from tennis has been mostly a disaster. These ideas that they're like, well, the refs aren't that good, so let's help them out by adding this. It doesn't help them. It gives them another thing to screw up. And so I understand why they would try this. I do not think the fans will like it. I do not think the refs will effectively adjudicate it. All right, next.
Okay. Mahomes, Burrow, and Allen are all tied at plus 700 for MVP. Back-to-back MVPs are actually sort of common in the NFL. Rodgers, Manning, and Favre all did it in the last 25 years. How insulted are you for Mahomes?
All right, so I'm not insulted. I think it's going to be very difficult for Mahomes to win another MVP. Yes, guys have won back-to-back, but Mahomes did win it. He won it in 18. He should have won it in 20. It was criminal that he didn't win it in 2020. They were 14-1 when he started. He sat out week 16 or week 17, and them giving that one to Rodgers was ridiculous. He didn't deserve it in 21, and then he won it in 2022. He should have been unanimous. But I think Joe Burrow is going to go into the season, understandably, with some of the hype and the smoke that Josh Allen went into last season with. Now, I don't think Josh Allen is going to have anything close to an MVP campaign. But everyone has basically, at this point, bent the knee to Mahomes. There is no longer a debate or discussion about who the best player in football is, and there shouldn't be. Now, the problem for him is going to be, when it comes to winning MVPs, is he judged against the other great players in the league, or is he judged against himself? Do they hold him to a different standard? I think that might happen. But I also think, I think for Mahomes to win MVP this year, I think the Chiefs would have to go 15-2 at worst. I think if he has amazing numbers, but they're 13-4, they'll give it to someone else. I think the Chiefs are going to have to be head and shoulders better than everybody, which, by the way, I think they could be. But I'm not insulted by this. I'm a little insulted on behalf of the Chiefs that they are not bigger favorites to win the AFC. That, I think, if you look at it right now, the Chiefs are plus 350, the Bills are plus 450, and Cincinnati's plus 500. Those shouldn't be the odds. It should be Chiefs plus 200, Cincy plus 500, and the Bills worse than that. But that's fine. And to win, what is it to win the Super Bowl? Let me check real quick. The Chiefs are 6-1. The Eagles are 8-1. Buffalo 9, Cincy 10, San Francisco 10. I get that the NFC path's so much easier, but it's gonna be difficult for Mahomes to win second straight MVP. I also think my guy Trevor Lawrence, because I think they could have an awesome record. I think the Prince might be league MVP this year. All right, next.
The Jets are officially this year's Hard Knocks team. Aaron Rodgers' wish to have all the cameras and attention on him is coming true.
Yeah, but he by the way, he was asked about this at the Tahoe golf tournament. He didn't seem too happy about it, but go ahead.
But now the pressure will be even greater to end the Jets' playoff drought. Is Aaron Rodgers biting off more than he can chew?
Well, yeah, not so much with the Hard Knocks, but with the Super Bowl talk. I don't know why Rodgers has... I mean, I guess I do know. I just think it was poor strategy that his messaging from the very beginning, that very opening press conference was, my plan is to add another Lombardi trophy. That trophy looks lonely. Haven't been to the Super Bowl in 50 years. All of that. I think the messaging should have been, this is a great franchise that has needed a great quarterback. I'm going to be that. We're going to be playing meaningful games in December and into January and set the expectation of we are going to be a playoff team, and then I believe we can win the Super Bowl. Where he has set it up is if they go 11-6 and make the second round of the playoffs, that would be the most successful Jets season in 15 years. If they go 11-6 and make the conference championship game, that would be the most successful Jets season in 50 years, but it would still somehow be a little disappointing because he has set the expectation at Super Bowl. That's the mistake that I think Aaron's making. I also don't think the Jets are going to be great. I think that entire AFC East, I think the Patriots will be the worst, the Dolphins or the Bills will be the best, but I think it's going to be 9-8, 10-7, 11-6 for the 3-2-1 in that division. And when the margins are that close, anybody can win it. But I don't think anyone's gonna in the AFCs this year gonna have a gaudy 13-4 or better record. Take a quick break. Come back. What's right? Episode 165.
Welcome back, episode 165. The Wimbledon final is this weekend. We'll see if it ends up being oh my goodness gracious.
You practice
Djokovic
so
and
much.
Alcaraz.
There you go.
Is the Wimbledon final the number one sports event you'd want to attend?
No. And I
That's
do think it's going to be Djokovic, Alcaraz. I did think we were going to get that American unranked Eubanks against Djokovic in the semis. But once he lost that fourth set tiebreaker, I was watching it at work yesterday, and I said to our producer, Keta, I said, if he loses this tiebreak, he's going to get washed out in the fifth set. And that's exactly what happened. And Alcaraz still has work to do. He's got to win another match. And Djokovic, listen, Medvedev is not going to be an easy opponent. By the way, can I tell you the dumbest thing that Wimbledon is doing? And ESPN, not a knock on ESPN, but they seem to be complicit in it. So in tennis, when they show your name with your score, they show the flag of your country because people playing from all over the world. The Russian tennis players just have a blank space.
Why?
Because of the war in Ukraine. Guys, Daniil Medvedev did not, try to invade Kiev. Okay? I understand that we as an international community are on Ukraine's side. I believe that is the correct side to be on. They are the country being invaded, and I think Russia's overreach here is very unsettling for an international order. But what is being accomplished by putting at that point,
it's like we know that they're Russian.
Right.
At that point, just don't have,
or just put like an angry guy emoji, like, oh, mean Russian. Like, give me a break. This is not Medvedev's fault. And it's like, oh, we can't even acknowledge that the country exists. I don't get it. At one point, I think some Russian athletes were banned from competing, and now I actually, in the very early days, and I'm not trying to be political here, and I'm not an international affairs expert. I'm an expert in a lot of things. International affairs, however, is not one of them. But you could convince me that in the very beginnings of the war, or in the lead up to the war, if you had said, if the Olympics, if different international sporting events had said, hey, if Russia invades Ukraine, their athletes are banned from our competitions. We don't blame the athletes, but we're doing that to put added pressure on the regime to not go through with this. That actually would make sense to me. The idea of, if there are people inside the Kremlin that are like, maybe we shouldn't do this, that maybe you put a little weight on the don't do side of the scale. If it's like our athletes won't be able to compete, won't be able to compete in the World Cup. But the war's now a year and a half in. I don't think
it's been a year and a half.
I think so, yeah.
That's crazy.
I don't think I have another hot take on this, by the way.
Probably better.
I don't think just stripping Medvedev of his flag emoji at Wimbledon is having any discernible impact. Here's my other... No, I have a question for you. Here's my other question. Because there were people at your school that, like, I saw, like, put at their desks, like, the Ukraine flag, and there were people on social media that, like, changed their avatars or whatever or changed their name to I Stand With Ukraine, all this stuff. And by the way, I get it. Heart's in the right place. Here's my question. Because it has been a year and a half. When you do that, are you then just pot committed that I'm just leaving this up until the war is over?
That was like with the Black Lives Matter movement, when people posted
the blank spaces
or the black screen and then changed their picture on their account
to like George Floyd or Breonna Taylor or
something
whatever
like
it was.
And then a bunch of celebrities got a lot of backlash when they removed it.
Well, that's the thing. Nobody thinks about anything, man. Nobody is like, oh, okay, I'm going to put this up there. Okay, for how long? Well, until racism's fixed. That's not tenable. So at some point you're going to, and again, I understand, I get the human.
I've never got on social media people, like, I understand, like, resharing something on your story maybe.
Sure.
But to change, like, to post something on your account about it when you have, 300 followers,
Well,
and you just, that just being your reason of showing I'm not racist, or I'm on this side, you know what I mean?
well, so there's, all right, so, you know what, let's just spend a minute here. It is the middle of July. There's not a lot of sports going on. And then I'll answer the
Just
question.
close the computer.
I'll answer the question about what sporting event I want to go to. So, there's a lot of levels to this, right? There is a natural human urge when something awful has happened or is going on to not want to feel helpless and to want to try in some way, shape, or form to help. It's why when, after 9/11, right, we had blood banks across the country overwhelmed with donations, even though there was at some point it was like, okay, we have too much now. You know what I mean? People were like, I can't do anything. I feel helpless. Let me do this. It's why when Damar Hamlin, the Buffalo Bills player who died on the field and they brought him back, it's why his charity raised millions of dollars because people watched it, felt awful, wanted to do good, and that was something they could do. That, I think, is one of the best parts about humanity, is like the want to help even if logically you know I can't really help this specific situation. So that's a good thing. Then there is the less good thing, but it doesn't have an outright negative impact, so I guess it's still good.
It's just like,
but it's I want to show everyone that I'm one of the good guys.
yeah.
That I'm on.
And you can tell the difference.
I totally agree. You can tell
or
the
when
difference.
people donate something and then screenshot it and like post like, oh, I just donated money.
Sure, but again, that does kind of, you know, there is a good
there isn't
impact.
a negative impact. It's just
right. And so it's the example I've always used in the past is if there's an old lady struggling to cross the street and I see her. I shouldn't use myself as an example in this example, but I will. Just imagine single Nick. And I see her, and I also know there is a very attractive woman walking down the street behind me that I like. If I help that old lady cross the street just to impress that woman, for the old lady, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I was doing it with good intentions or with selfish intentions. For her, she just experienced the good. For, you know what I mean, your ethics and morality or whatever, one is better than the other. But you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, the positive act is still done, no matter what the rationale behind it was. So if I donate $1,000 to a charity because I want to be able to screenshot it and show the world, the charity receives that money no matter what. It is still a net good, even if it feels a little different to the observer, whatever it is. So I'm okay with that, but I do recognize it is not as pure, if you will, as other things. Then there is the one that is, again, I think a pretty common human phenomena. And it is, in my opinion, very unattractive. And it is a version of main character syndrome, which is there was I'll pick something truly awful, a school shooting in Michigan. And the person who's like, you know, my cousin used to go to school there. It's like, or it's the something really awful happens. They're like, wow, I was almost going to be there. And where it's the making any
Situation
major
about
event,
themselves.
exactly, making any major event that happens anywhere, it only happened in relation to their life and how it affected them. Go ahead.
No, never mind.
And so again, this was, sorry for this tangent, but I actually think it's an interesting conversation. I don't know why, and you know where you see it a lot? When celebrities pass away. And people
Post that one time they met them.
Exactly right. And so I'll give you guys so maybe people would argue I did something similar to that when Doyle Brunson passed. But I was legit. You were there, that we were in California.
That.
I was really, really sad. I did consider him a friend. It's not like we'd known each other for our whole lives, but he had come into my life late. He invited me to his house. I get sad thinking about it now. I was legit sad about that. I was really sad. And I wanted to pay tribute to what a nice man he was. I understood, though, when it happened that it might kind of look like I was doing that, but I didn't really care because I knew in my heart this was earnest. I really, really loved that. Loved is probably strong. I felt like I loved the man, and I felt a deep connection to him, and I was legit sad and shocked by it. That was the other thing. I knew he was really old, but he wasn't sick.
I remember we were all sitting together, and you looked on your phone, you just got up and walked away.
I couldn't believe it, because it's not, when that happened, I found out through Twitter. I saw someone that I follow in the poker community, before it was announced by the family, I saw someone post a tribute to him. I was like, what? So I texted my friend who's a friend of his and said, is this true? And he said, yes. And I just couldn't believe it. I was just really shocked by it. But again, I'm not trying to, I don't feel like I was doing that. It kind of could have looked like that. But you do see that sometimes when someone who people have no connection to, it's a weird thing where people just feel a need.
That's really big with, I'd say, high school and middle school students too, and older people. Do you know what I mean?
Well, if it's big with high school, middle school, and older people, it might be big with everybody.
No,
it's certainly big with kids.
Yeah.
But that, I don't, with kids, I used to say this.
I remember when Cameron Boyce died, I posted on.
I apologize, who's that?
He's the freckled kid that was on Jessie, the mixed kid.
Yeah.
And I had met him that once at the Disney Channel Music Awards.
Oh, yeah.
And I was so sad when he died that I searched up on Google a bunch of photos of him and posted it. It was like, I'll miss you.
Yeah.
And it's just like.
But the thing is, that's, to me, I used to say this to your brother a lot, and maybe I've said it to you once or twice, which is, you shouldn't be mad at teenagers, but you should try to, as a parent, as quickly as possible, help them evolve out of the stage of what I call the world ending at the end of your nose, which is, it is very difficult.
World.
Right. It is very difficult for adolescents to see anything outside of from their own perspective. And so I don't think that's an abnormal thing at all for teens or kids and teens. I do think part of becoming an adult is recognizing when there is someone that passes or a tragedy or whatever, there are people who this is actually tragic for. And if the spotlight should be on anyone, it should be on them, not and again, and this is the last thing I'll say about it, this is again not the same tree, but I guess a branch of the same tree. The folks, when there is not that there's a lot of plane crashes, but when there is a plane crash or something like that, the folks that say, I was supposed to be on that plane, and then say God is good, I'm always like, unless like the plane ended up being empty, there was no one on it. Like that one has always bothered me. Like when there was the, I remember, I forget who it was, some celebrity. There was an earthquake and then a massive tidal wave in Asia like 15 years ago. And went on TV and was like, I was supposed to be there, man, but God is good. And I'm like, I think like thousands of people just died. Maybe like, I'm glad you were spared, but that's not great.
God
Okay.
wasn't good for them, you know?
Yeah, so to answer your question, the sporting event I would most want to attend, I actually think is the World Cup final. I think the World Cup final would be the greatest. I think Wimbledon's on the short list, and I hope to go at some point. I've been to an NBA Finals game. I'm lucky I've been to a Super Bowl. Super Bowl is not even really on my list. I'd rather watch that from home on TV. NBA Finals, I'd go every year if I could. And courtside at the NBA Finals, I've never been, but I think that would be near the top of the list. But I think the World Cup final would be number one. Okay, I said we're going to do a quick show. Instead, we did 15 minutes on
Yeah, we're over time.
Non sequitur. All right, let's get to the game. Go ahead.
We're playing 2 wrongs and 1 right.
Yep.
In an effort to be healthy this season, Zion says he wants to follow in LeBron's footsteps this offseason. Next season, Zion will be dominant, healthy, or scandal-free.
I obviously hope all three. He's had some lady trouble as of late. It's unfortunate. I also, the Mariah young woman who he seemed to be having a relationship with, who then got his name tattooed on her face and won't stop harassing him on social media. I'm being totally serious here. I don't know if she will, but if she attempts to attend NBA games, I think she has to be banned. I think the league has to step in. You can't have someone that's essentially stalking your players show up to the games. I was thinking about this
like
the
the
other day.
Blueface situation.
I'm not familiar with that. The Blueface the rapper. Well, I don't know what happened there. But I hope he is scandal free. I hope he is healthy. I know he'll be dominant. The thing about Zion is when he's played, he's been as efficient, a high volume scorer as we've seen in the history of the league. That is not an exaggeration. He's 60% from the field, better than 25 points per game for his career. We've never seen someone like that. So my one right will be dominant. I hope they're all right. All right, go ahead. Next.
Lionel Messi landed in Miami ahead of his debut with Inter Miami on the 21st, and the Women's World Cup starts next week. Will we finally enter a new era of soccer popularity? America will embrace soccer, stick to football, or overtake Europe?
Listen, I think the right answer is stick to football, but I think soccer never had the massive, enormous exponential jump people thought it would have, that people were predicting for 20 years. But it has slowly but surely gained market share. And I think it has clearly passed hockey as America's number 4 sport as far as interest and viewership. And I think it could one day pass baseball. One day.
Baseball?
Say it again?
Soccer pass baseball?
Yeah, I think soccer could pass baseball. It's not there.
I don't really understand the baseball appeal. I used to really like it when I was a kid, but I still don't really know what's going on.
Well,
I feel like being at the games for soccer are way more exciting than being at a baseball
Yeah, but being at a baseball game is like, it's less about excitement and more about the experience.
Yeah.
It's outdoors. It's nice. It's kind of relaxed. There's a lot of great things about going to baseball games. Baseball has tried, and they've done a good job this year, to try to reinvent itself on the fly a bit, which has stemmed some of the kind of atrophy of its fan base. But very, very difficult to gain it for a slower sport as people's attention spans get quicker and quicker to gain a foothold on young people. And if you don't have young people, you don't have the fans of the future. So soccer, listen, I think American football will be the dominant sport in America for the entirety of my adult life. I believe that. Unless it, as long as it exists. But I don't think anything has a monopoly on those other top two spots. And soccer can gain traction, and I don't think it's irrelevant at all, but I don't think it's going to become number one in my lifetime. All right, if ever. Next.
Mark Cuban came out saying that Kyrie is just misunderstood and that he really likes him. Cuban's worst investment is Chandler Parsons, Kyrie Irving are accepting Dogecoin at Mavericks home games.
Well, the Dogecoin thing I think was mostly a joke, so I'm not going to say that. Chandler Parsons, I objectively was bad, and then he got a big contract from Memphis. And I don't, but here's the reason I'm going to say Kyrie, and I know it sounds mean, because Kyrie is doing his best. I do believe Kyrie's heart's in the right place on a lot of stuff. I think he's mixed up on certain things, and gullible to internet videos and faux documentaries and things. But I also think he does really good work in the indigenous community and the black community and does some really good things. I also think that him becoming, CCO of a Chinese sneaker company, as a friend of mine, put it, once he stumbles across that Wikipedia page, he might have some questions about, wait, they do what? To who over there? But set that aside. The Kyrie trade and the contract extension, I think is going to be one of the reasons Luka ends up leaving. And that will be something the franchise can't recover from. And so the answer there, unfortunately, is Kyrie. All right, next.
James Harden has doubled down on his trade request after opting into his contract, and Dame is trying to force his way to Miami by any means necessary. Player empowerment is great, gone too far, or will get worse.
I think player empowerment, is fine, but I also think it's been bastardized a bit. LeBron is the one credited with the player empowerment era, but all that meant was LeBron was going to, basically make teams woo him, pick his next destination, and maybe plan years ahead of time. But LeBron honored every contract he ever had. Dame accepting the 2-year extension and then a year later demanding a trade to one specific place is a tricky one. I think will get worse is the answer, and worse is probably, I would tweak that to will get more extreme. I think you're going to see a guy at some point take the full max extension and then immediately demand a trade. And I think it's going to continue on that trajectory until a team and I don't even know if this will be good. It's just my prediction on what will happen. Until a team stands up to a player and says, no, not doing it. Like, the players have won each and every one of those, so they're going to keep doing it. And again, it doesn't really bother me. I know it bothers some people, but it's going to take a team, drawing a line in the sand, and I don't see that happening anytime soon. Next.
A few NFL teams are bringing back their throwback jerseys. The throwback NFL jersey you'd buy is the Bucks Creamsicles, the Eagles Kelly Green, or Titans Oilers.
Well, so the Houston Oilers jerseys are awesome. The Titans wearing them is kind of weird. The Texans should be allowed to wear them, but they're not. I like all these jerseys, but my answer is none of the above because I'm a grown man, so I'm not wearing a jersey. Sorry. Next.
I picked the Oilers.
The Oilers one is dope. Go ahead.
After staying there during OTAs, Sam Darnold claims George Kittle's pool house was haunted. This isn't the first time he said that he saw ghosts. Yeah, ghosts are real, fake, or visible to only Sam Darnold.
Do you believe in ghosts?
Yep.
You do?
Of course I do.
No.
Of course I believe in ghosts. Are you insane?
What? Am I insane?
Yes.
What do you believe?
I believe that ghosts are always around.
Always around? Do you think you've had an encounter?
No.
You've just been lucky? So, like, what do you
No, I
think?
think that like ghosts are like spirits,
Uh-huh.
and spirits are always like,
Around?
yeah,
Just hanging out?
where are they supposed to go?
I don't know. Assume they have better things to do.
Maybe not always around, but in
Do you believe their houses can be haunted?
yeah.
Really?
I think our house is haunted, but
Our house?
yeah.
Why do you think it's haunted?
I've said this before.
I guess I didn't. I thought you were maybe just trying to appease your mother, who I know believes in these types of things. What? Why do you think our house is haunted?
One time I woke up in my room, and I sleep with my doors, every door in my room closed, like
Uh-huh.
my bathroom door, my bedroom door, and my closet door.
Mhm.
And I woke up one day, all of my blinds were open, my windows were open, my doors were open, and the sink in my bathroom was on. And I tried to just convince myself that I like sleepwalked, but I was like, and then I asked mommy if she was in my room while I was asleep, and she was like, "Why would I do that? Like, I wouldn't do that." I was like, "Oh, okay." And then later in the day, I left my windows open because mommy told me to. And then later in the day, I went back in my room, and like all of the windows were closed, the blinds were closed, and all the stuff that was in my windows was just on the floor right in front of my window.
All right. Well, that makes me think we had an intruder, not that there was a ghost. I wish you guys would have told me
I
this.
did tell you this. You guys just don't listen to me
No,
because
well,
I'm
maybe
the middle
if you
child.
started yes, maybe if you started with ghosts, I tuned you out. But if you'd have told me all that, I would have thought there was an intruder in your room, which would have really concerned me. So you think not only
Having a intruder would concern you. Like the other day when I thought that there was somebody in Demonte's room, and you thought it was really funny and just knocked on the door and barged in. And you were like, "See, did you see anyone?"
that was me protecting you.
No, no.
I went down there to protect you. First of all, second of all, so you not only believe there's ghosts, but you believe they have the ability to physically move objects?
Yeah, I think there's nice ghosts and good ghosts.
I'm glad
I think our house has good ghosts.
UC
Though.
Santa Cruz has already accepted you. I need
A lot of people believing in ghosts is like the same as believing in aliens.
No, it is not.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
No, it is not. There is scientifically it is more likely than not that aliens exist.
Okay, but when people
Scientifically, there is
speak.
no basis for ghosts. Go ahead.
for aliens, people are like, we're not the only ones in the universe.
Mhm.
With ghosts, we're not the only ones
In
here.
okay, I get what I understand what you're saying, but what I am saying is from a mathematical and scientific perspective with an infinite.
I've also been watching scary movies since I was 5 years old.
Okay.
So you gotta kind of give me a break.
Listen, I'm not like evidently the poll says is 50-50 on if the right house is haunted. I don't believe in ghosts. I am gonna to answer that question. I don't believe in ghosts. We have now talked about Ukraine, dead celebrities, and ghosts. If you can't tell it's the middle of July, you can now. We'll answer your questions next. What's right?
Welcome back, episode 165. Now we're going to read your fan questions. Ariel Miller said, "Nick, would you be doing an NFL preview show? I know season win totals and division winners have been out a while, and the odds market is already baked.
Yep.
Baked, but I always like hearing your take."
1,000%. So I can just quickly here, if you're still listening, if you made it through our Ukraine take and our ghost take, you are a loyal viewer or listener, so you might actually care about this. I can give you a little preliminary podcast schedule for the rest of the summer. So next week we are off. We are then theoretically on the following 3 weeks from July 24th through August 11th, but I might take a show here or there off there as well. Then, the week of August 14th, we are off because I am on vacation with my wife and her grandparents. We will be back that week of August 20th. Starting that week, we will essentially be in all NFL all the time mode. We will do our gambling preview show, our season picks, all of it over those next few weeks. Also, around that time is the time DeMonze will start back here with us, as Diorra will be getting ready to go to college, and it will be football, and DeMonze will be doing the show from Los Angeles. But 1,000%, we are going to do that preview show like we did last year. All right, next.
Okay. Jacob
Christensen
asked, if Joe Burrow were on the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes were on the Bengals, how would the last 5 Super Bowls / AFC championships have gone down?
Okay, so
It's a good question.
So 2018, Joe Burrow would have lost to the Patriots like Mahomes did in the AFC title game. I think he would have gotten there and they would have lost. I don't think he would have had the crazy comeback Mahomes did. 2019, the Chiefs would have lost in round 2. No disrespect to Burrow, but the Chiefs were down 24-0 in the second quarter of that game. No quarterback in the league other than Mahomes was coming back. And so they wouldn't have won the Super Bowl. 2020, the Chiefs would have gotten to the Super Bowl as they did and gotten the Burrow would have gotten annihilated like Mahomes did in that Super Bowl. 2021, the Chiefs would have won the Super Bowl, assuming that Mahomes would have then had the second half meltdown in the AFC title game that he did with the Chiefs for the Bengals. And 2022, the Bengals would have beaten the Chiefs. So if you had this level Joe Burrow the last 5 years on the Chiefs, the Chiefs would have won 1 Super Bowl. If you had Mahomes on the Bengals, 18, 19, 20, they weren't anything. So, it's very hard to... I don't even know how to do that math. You can't even put them in the playoff games. They weren't in the playoffs. But the Chiefs would have won the last 2 Super Bowls, 21 and 22. That's my answer. I mean, the Bengals would have if they had Mahomes instead of Burrow. All right, next.
Shepard said, this is going to be the reviewable pass interference fiasco the NFL went through all over again.
Regarding flopping. 1,000% agree. All right, next.
Xavier Alvarado said, Nick believes in the sports gods but not ghosts.
So here's the thing. The sports gods thing is really more of a metaphor. I don't actually believe there is a god dictating the outcomes of the games. But I do think there are things you can do that set things in motion that work against you. And the catch-all term for that is the sports gods frowning upon it. But I think guys can do certain things that have a psychological impact on themselves or their opponent that negatively or positively affects them, and that the metaphor for that is the sports gods. That's what I believe. Go ahead.
Mr. Rage asked, does DeMonte believe in ghosts? I bet he does.
I would bet yes as well. Doesn't believe in dinosaurs, does believe in ghosts.
DeMonte doesn't believe in dinosaurs?
He does, but that was from one of his very first podcasts. He decided to, try out. He didn't really know who he wanted to be on the air, so he evidently was trying out, a comedy goofy guy routine and did all, give me proof there's dinosaurs. I've never seen it. And he was trying to be funny, but people just thought he was an idiot, and so they made fun of him for a long time, and he still regrets it. And he's still like, guys, I believe in dinosaurs. But he was trying to be a funny guy, and people didn't know him well enough yet. So that's the reference. All right, last one.
Everyone wants to know, what did you get DeMonte for his birthday?
What'd you get him?
I got him a trip to the Grand Cayman.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You got him that?
Yeah.
You gonna transfer me that money then?
I already did.
Oh, okay.
It's in your account if you just go look.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
I'll just take it out of your 5%. That I owe you.
No, you won't.
Look at this. Look at that image. Look at you. You made the Photoshop.
Oh, but
I
I'm not at the party though.
I asked him what he wanted. No, you're on TV. You're a star. I asked him what he wanted. I assumed it was money. He said money. He's trying to start his own little small business. And so he wants money. And his mother, instead of asking him what he wanted, just says, "I'm getting you a dining room table."
I'm sure he really appreciates
Which is
that.
what he definitely wants. Your mom's
Should
the
have got him a
best.
snake.
What? He likes to pick out his own, but he is trying to, breed. That's kind of his passion is snakes and breeding snakes. So I think he's gonna continue to work on that. Happy birthday, pal! Can't wait to see you Sunday.
Love you, bro, sir.
Love you guys. We will see you guys on TV today at 3:00. What's right? Hey, it's Nick Wright. Thank you so much for watching. Please do us a favor. Click subscribe. It helps my ego, and Demonze's got a financial bonus writing on a number of YouTube subscribers, so help him out. And also, click the bell. I don't know what the bell does, but they tell me to tell you to click the bell. And if you're audio listeners, people that have commutes, drives, whatever it is, subscribe to the podcast as well, wherever you get the podcast. Same show, just in your ears instead of through your eyes. All that. Check it out. Appreciate y'all.